Millennium Computer's fast online tutorials for budgets and forecasting. This tutorial will show you the data entry page in the Budgets application. You can use the menu to open your development budgets. The main page also has a quick launch menu, and you can use it to access your development budgets. At first glance, this page looks very similar to previous versions. As usual, the filter options open, and they are now part of what is called the report options. In addition to the filter options, there are now two new tabs called Advanced Options and Pinned Reports. You can select columns and the sort order in the Advanced Options. And in the Pinned Reports section, you can save your report options to use at a later date. The page notes are also new, or at least in a new location. This section displays only if notes have been added to the page and only when the report options are open. For example, this note gives you the hint that you can click the Report Options title bar to hide or show the options. If you don't want to see these notes, you can always hide them by clicking the Hide Page Notes button. It also makes more room on the page. Once the page notes have been hidden, they will remain hidden no matter which tab is selected. On the previous slide, the page notes said that you could click the Report Options title bar to close them. The report options and page notes are no longer showing. Later, when transactions are listed on the page and the data entry form is open, this option will give you much more room on the page to work with. Besides clicking the title bar to show or hide the report options, you can also click the Show Options button to the right. Now I'm going to select some filter options. I'm just going to select a development series. You can always select other filters to minimize the amount of transactions in your report. And now I'll click Execute Report. 20 of 23 transactions are listed, but we can only see 17 of them. I'm going to show you a couple of other ways to view more of the transactions. Because of the size of this tutorial window, I have scrolled to the right. You can use the vertical scroll bar to see more of the transactions, but then the ones at the top are not visible. Let's scroll back to the left. You can click the navigation arrow to see the next set of transactions, but then you'll only see the last 3. Now back to the first set of transactions. Another way to see more transactions is to make the data grid bigger by using the grid height slider. Now all 20 transactions are showing, but the grid height is a bit big, so there's blank space at the bottom and the icons and report buttons are out of sight. In addition to the grid height slider, you can also click the arrows to remove the blank space. Now the icons and buttons are showing, but there's still blank space in the grid. Another option we can try is to change the records per page. The records per page is now 50 and all 23 transactions are listed. There is another way to get about an inch more space to work with. At the top of the page, you can click this arrow on the extreme right of the title bar to hide the Millennium Fast header. And voila! Another inch of space to work with. You may still have to scroll up and down to see all the transactions, but this gives you a good idea of how to go about doing it. I have set the data grid back to the way it was at the beginning so I can show you the data entry form, although I am going to keep the Millennium header hidden for the extra room. To open the data entry form, you can add a new transaction, edit a transaction, or view a transaction. For the purposes of this tutorial, I am going to edit a transaction. The data entry form opens above the data grid, and the transaction you are editing is highlighted in the data grid. I had to scroll down to show you the highlighted transaction in the data grid. The data entry form looks pretty much the same as it did in previous versions with a few additions. We now have metric-based budgets, information tabs, and the ability to keep the grid synchronized. With metrics, you can set up variables to use as part of your calculations to build budgets. Each budget transaction can have up to 3 metrics related to it. This is an institution-specific option, so you may not see them on your form. You can also read more about the metrics in the help file. The information tabs include job comments and burdens. Again, these will only display if your institution uses them. Click the name to view the information in the tab. Clicking the blue pin allows you to expand the tab sections, so if you have multiple tabs, you can view them at the same time. And then click the blue pin again to close the sections and collapse them back into tabs. You can also clear the checkbox. When the Keep Grid Synchronized checkbox is selected, the data grid updates after you save each record. And the data grid is locked and will only update after you click to synchronize. As a reminder, you can reopen the report options at any time. What just happened? Well, within the confines of this tutorial, it looks like the data entry form and the list of transactions are gone, but in reality they are still open and are below the report options. With a bigger monitor, you would be able to see much more. Because of the visual limitations, I have an image of what the page looks like when all sections are open. To review, Report Options has 3 sections: Filter Options, Advanced Options, and Pinned Reports. When the report options are open, the page notes display, and you can also hide the page notes. In the data entry form, you can now calculate budgets using metrics, view information about transactions by clicking the tabs, and synchronize the data grid. In the data grid, you can now see the list of transactions at the same time as you have the data entry form open. The transaction you were working on is also highlighted. So there you have it, the new data entry form. You're probably wondering why I didn't mention how to sort the list of transactions or how to save your filters. No, they aren't gone, they're just located in a different place or have a different name. Hint, did you see the button called Save as Pinned Report? The next tutorial will show you how to do these things plus much more.